Her smile shines as bright as the stars at night. Her heart is as kind as can be. She has the patience of a saint, but if you push her, oh Lordy. A straight talker is smiley. She's the salt of the earth. Make no mistake, she matters. Catch Smiley's story on a live stream. Oh boy, that girl can matter. Go Smiley. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. Missing posters and stories of heartache and fear. She tells us all of the heartbreaking tears. She can sniff out the guilty from a mile away. If Smiley's on the case, then she's here to stay. She cares about these missing children. She cares deeply about them all. She speaks the truth with integrity. For the truth, she will seek it all. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. Smiley's questions are like a heat-seeking missile. She's going straight for the bullseye. Don't ever believe you can fool her. She's too wise, man, she won't comply. She values freedom like the 4th of July. She values respect even more. If you want to earn a place at Smiley's table, watch the clock, it takes time for sure. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear. If you break her trust, you're done for. Trust don't grow back like grass. So don't give Smiley a reason to doubt you, or that friendship will shatter like glass. She's a damn good woman, that much we know. She puts in the hours to bring them kids home. If your child is missing, you want Smiley on the case. She is always willing and she gives so much grace. She's a Smiley, alright. She's a Smiley. Make no mistake why she's here. She's Smiley, alright. She's Smiley. If you're guilty, she'll smell out your fear.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. August 15th. We are in the middle of the month. Whoop, right down the middle. I hope everybody's having a good day so far. Welcome in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in my world for a little bit. Hello, hello. Hey, not crazy. Hello, welcome. Welcome in, Janice. Yep, trigger warning. Trigger warning. This one's going to be a trigger trigger warning, but it's going to be a good story. A good story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for putting up that trigger warning. Hey, Miss Grace. Hey, beautiful. Love you, ma'am. Hello, hello. Who else have we got here? Dawn Emery. Hello, hello. Donna Smith. Lisa B. Always. Hello. Thank you for that. Everybody hit that thumbs up. Rudy. Hello, Rudy. With autism. Love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you being here. Let's see who else we got. Raw Beanie. Hello, hello. Where Summer 1-800-TBI-FIND. Hello, hello. Yep, never forgotten, never forgotten. And this one right here has a special connection. I'm gonna bring that up. Sorry, girl. And Kimberly. Hello, Kimberly. Dee. Hello, hello, Plant Lady. Hello, everybody coming in. Hello, Butterfly Kisses. Hello, Robin N. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. I'm hoping I'm not missing everyone. You know, I think I need to just turn away from this freaking window. Hey, Show Poodles. Hello, Show Poodles. There's you and your beautiful poodle. God, I miss my poodle Bubbles so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Hello, everybody. Let's see. I'm just double checking here. I'm so sorry, Miss Grace. I know it's hard. Love you all. She loves you and we love you. You know, I think about you a lot and what you're going through, honey. I think about you a lot. I was talking to somebody the other day, Miss Grace, and they're on here now. They can verify it. And we were talking about my grandmother, and I'm like, well, let me ask my mom. You know, so I get it, honey. I understand. Whew. Yeah, that was a moment. Hello, everybody coming in. Hello, hello. Betsy Mathis, hello. Good to see you. Good morning. Holly S. Hello, hello. Love everybody here. Panda Bear's mom. You have a wedding later on today? Well, have fun. You're decked out and beautiful. Oh, it's always fun to get dressed up. Always so fun. Holly S., thank you. Woo! Thank you for the super sticker, Holly. Thank you. You're a beautiful person. Thank you. Terry Parker, happy Friday. Happy Friday. Let's see what we got here. Wait, what? Wait, what? Good to see you. Wait, what? Love you. Love you. I am not trying to miss anybody, honey. Let's see. I think I'm down at the bottom. I think I am. I think I am. I think I am. Thank you all for being here. Roxy R. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Welcome in. I hope everybody has a fabulous day. Grab your coffee. Grab everything you need. We're going to go into about 3 videos today. I'm going to go into this live. It is a trigger warning. And this happened back about 2009, but this is the saddest. Man, this is the saddest story. And today we're going to be talking about a case that is one of the most heartbreaking, honestly. They're all heartbreaking, but this was so disturbing and heartbreaking that I've ever covered. You know, and I spent all day yesterday looking at it. Susan, hello, honey. 2 innocent children. 2 innocent children. Let me show you. I should have put them in my avatar, but let's see. Let me get that out. Let's see. Uh-oh, that's not what I wanted, honey. I'm trying to get rid of that. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. I was trying to get rid of that. Hold on. I want to show you these two little babies here. Okay. Hold on. Look at them two little babies. Look at their face. Hey, Trooper's mom. Hello, 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 hello. So today we're talking about these children, too innocent. They're always innocent. But hey, little Red O, Natalie was just 4 years old and Chase was only 3. Now look, they had to go far and beyond and make them suffer. They poisoned them slowly over time. Do y'all hear me? They poisoned them slowly over time, and they were poisoned by the very people who were supposed to protect them. This wasn't a sudden act of violence. Nobody just snapped. Not that that's an excuse. They carried this out. They concealed it until the truth was finally dug up, literally. This is the story of John and Heather. Heather Keaton and John DeBlaise. And this was calculated. It was a slow death of 2 little children that's on my screen now who never stood a chance. My friend in here, 1-800 Summer and Sebastian, even spoke to the grandparents before any of this happened. She can explain if she needs to, or if I'm saying anything wrong. There was another case or something going on. I don't want to get all confused into going into that, but she literally met the grandparents, and I asked who, and it was the dad's side. So she said they were really good people, and they loved these 2 children right here. They loved them. We'll find out why. And you spoke to them after this too. Okay. Thank you for that. And we'll find out how come they didn't know. We'll get into that. So this all happened both in Alabama and Mississippi, meaning one child was in Mobile, one child was found in Mississippi. You know, it's kind of like Sullivan County and Hawkins County, or Davidson County and Sumner County. You know, you put one leg here and one leg there, and you're in each county. Well, that's kind of how this was. Okay. So John Joseph DeBlaise, the father, he is the bio father. And Heather Keaton, she was the stepmother or common law wife. Okay. Okay. Natalie Alexis DeBlaise, she was 4, and Jonathan Chase was 3. Okay. So sad. The abuse was slow poisoning and strangulation. And they disposed of the bodies in 2 different places, because they died at 2 different times in 2 different wooded areas. This was horrific. It was horrible. Horrible. Heartbreaking, very uncalled for. Yep. Absolutely. Thank you for putting that up. These little children did not deserve any of this. Children never do. I can't imagine the suffering. I just can't. Both are convicted of capital murder, and both are sentenced to death. But let's get into it. In 2009 to 2010, that's when the abuse began. Heather moved in with John and the kids. Okay. She moved in with them. There was reports of verbal and physical abuse towards the children, especially Natalie. Now, look, we're going to get into that. Remember how I said it, okay? But then in mid 2010, the poisoning, Heather begins mixing antifreeze in the children's food. Now, y'all, they say this is poison and it is a horrible death. Yeah, it's unexplainable. That's why I'm saying just bear with what I said, because I don't think the CPS they've ever been in trouble or any of that. We'll just get to that. Just bear with me and how I tell the story, okay? Because I'm trying to get the facts out. They just may not be in order. But in mid 2010, the poisoning is when Heather began mixing the antifreeze and the children's food and putting it in the children's food. She poisoned them and caused the children to become weak, sick, lethargic, and everything that comes along with it. Prosecutors later revealed the goal was to make them easier to kill, okay? Some testimony stated she wanted to see how long it would take for the poison to kill them. Now, 1-800 can even attest to this. They even use poison on a dog to see how long it would take the animal to die. Are y'all with me so far? You know, they're not in a freaking don't get me started. Let me continue. So in summer of 2010, Natalie's death, she dies first. John and Heather, it said, wrapped her in her small body, and I don't know in what, but anyway, they throw her in the woods. They throw her in the woods, okay? There's no report to the police. She just simply disappears from out of sight. What is Ginger saying? Yes, they had, and it gets worse every time. But I do feel like these stories are important to tell, even if they're older stories, that they're important to tell. Some people go, oh, this mother didn't do that. Oh, they can't do that. Oh, just because there was oh, we see it in these cases right here today. Well, I'm sorry. Let's just, Smiley will go back and we'll go backwards and we'll pull the old stories where they're true. Okay? Because I don't chase clout. I chase the important stuff. Okay? And I chase the truth. And I chase what goes on in the real world. As horrible as it is, it's getting more horrible and worse. Now, in the fall of 2010, little Chase, he dies. Chase suffers the same fate. He's poisoned and then killed. His body was taken across the state line over into Mississippi, and he was thrown in the woods. In December of 2010, police learn both children are missing. At that time, John, the dad, which I blame him more for allowing this to go on. Yeah, because they brought the FBI in because it was across state lines. Absolutely. But anyway, John admitted to burying them, but he blames Heather for this. Okay? Investigators say the remains of Natalie and Chase, they're trying to find them for days. Okay, and they're searching. So the public learns about the antifreeze poisoning, the prolonged suffering, and the cold-blooded murder, period. Prosecutors call it one of the most cold and calculated murders in Alabama's history ever. Testimony showed Heather viewed the children. Now listen to this, because I have been preaching this. Heather viewed the children as obstacles, and she wanted them gone. She wanted them gone. John claimed he feared Heather. I don't buy it, but we'll get to some more in that. Okay? He claims he feared Heather. Now, but he did nothing to stop her. He did nothing to stop her. He let this go on. Not only did one kid die, a different one died at a different time. He could have stopped this any time he wanted to, but he didn't. I don't believe he feared Heather, in my opinion. But honey, he has nobody to fear now, in my opinion, but the ones who hate people in prison who hurt little children. So he can live with that. He can live with that. Now, they say the trustees of the jail Heather went to, she already got some of hers. She got a little bitty taste of hers, because they say when Heather got to the jail, the trustees was already on alert she was coming. And she got a big old welcoming party. Let's just say that. From them trustees and those people. That's what the word is. She got the shit beat out of her. I must say good. The jury hears the poison plan, the days-long suffering of these two little children, and about where they threw them in these little shallow grave-likes. Both are found guilty of capital murder. They're both sentenced to death. They both tried to appeal, and their appeal was denied, and they're still on death row today. Now, like I said, y'all, poisoning someone is already an act of a coward. But poisoning your child, little children, helpless, and watching them suffer, your own child, is something beyond evil. It's way beyond evil. It goes way beyond. Natalie and Chase never got to grow up. They never got to laugh. They never got to go through all the awkward teenage moments. And they never got to be safe in their beds at night. You know, the only time they was probably in their beds if they were sick. You know, from the poison. My God. They went through all that. They were instead betrayed. They were tortured. And they were erased from this world. Do you hear me? They were erased by the two people who should have been there and been their safe place. Their safe place for them to fall and land. And hey, she should have too, because why did he have custody? Where was the mom? Well, we'll get in that in a minute. I don't know all about the mom. I didn't really dig in her, but she did speak in court, and I think I got one of those videos up. But my point is, if the dad had custody, he damn well should have brought somebody in, and they should have felt safe with. And he, above all, should have been protecting them. Again, they say dying of poison and it's painful. We remember Natalie and Chase not as the victims in this headline, but as two little lives who are full. They were full of potential, and that was all stolen from them. You know, I just want this story to remind us all to pay attention to all of your surroundings, to speak out if you suspect child abuse or a child is in danger. And if you see a lot of antifreeze sitting around, pay attention. Because somewhere right now, there's another Natalie and there's another Chase who needs someone to care enough to act on it, to save their little life. We can't bring them back, but we can honor them by making sure that other children don't suffer. That's what we can do. Smiley, I was in Dakota's mama's that got beat up. It was Dakota's mama that got beat up at the vigil when I met Mr. and Mr. Blaze, because Dakota's mom, her boyfriend killed her also. Did show. Okay, so it was not the other one. It was Dakota's mom. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll get into Dakota's a whole nother story. So that was my bad, my mistake. Sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. But I'm sure she's got her other stuff, okay? She'll get what's coming to her. Sorry about that. Thank you for correcting me on that. Thank you so much. What signs should neighbors and families look for to catch abuse before it's too late? You know, and some people ask, should John have got the same thing? Hell yeah, he should have got the same thing, and he did. But yeah, absolutely. If not, he's the worst person, I think, in my opinion. And it was his kids, right? And he did. After all this was said and done, after everything was said and done, both John and Heather was sentenced to death after the murders of Natalie and Chase. But John DeBlise's charges was a capital murder for both children's death. He got the death penalty. He tried to appeal, but the conviction and sentence upheld by Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals in 2018. And Alabama Supreme Court affirmed the death sentence in 2019. So he remains on death row at Holman Correctional Faculty in Alabama. Now, Heather Keaton, her charges was capital murder, abuse of a child, plus manslaughter. She originally was sentenced to death in 2015. Her sentence got overturned in 2018 due to a procedural error, but she was resentenced to death in 2021 after a new hearing. So it doesn't matter. She was sentenced twice to death. It was the same outcome. Hey, PG's little girl and Nana and everybody coming in. Please make sure you hit that thumbs up, and let's get these stories out so we can show people this really happens, you know. But she got the same thing twice. It didn't matter. She could probably do it again. Much love to you, honey, PG. So she could probably do it again, have another trial, and they probably convict her the same way. That's just my opinion, honestly. So in June of 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear her case, keeping her death sentence in place, because she tried that too, and also keeping her on death row at Holman Correctional Faculties over in Alabama. That's where Alabama houses the women on death row. And this means both are still there, and they're waiting their executions. And because Alabama has no set execution until the governor signs the death warrant, they could remain there for years. Again, the killings of these beautiful little babies happened months apart. Natalie on March 4th, 2010, and Chase on June 20th, 2010. And their bodies were buried in two different places. Natalie was near Centennial, Alabama, and Chase was near Van Cleve, Mississippi. And they were located in mid-December. John, he remains in Holman Correctional Faculties for the male death row side. You know, this is crazy. There's no execution dates. There's none set in Alabama. And I don't know when they will be, but they will be. They'll meet their maker one day anyway, either way. And I don't think they'll take too kind to these precious, innocent kids being taken as tortured, honestly. I'm going to put something in my chat. Hold on a minute. Copy this link, and I want to put something in here. Hold on a minute. Give me just a minute. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so I have to go to my live because I don't watch my live. It makes it echo or something. Hold on. Oh, I don't know if I can get on it like that. Shit. Hold on. Open. Okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. Hold on. Shit, hold on. Why won't it open on my phone? Okay, I'm going to send it. Okay, I'm going to send it to one of my mods. Can y'all please put it in there for me, this link? Drop this link in there for me, please. Thank you. I put it in the other chat. If you'll please drop that link in there. I don't know why my live won't open, but anyway. So that there's multiple appeals and stuff like that. That's really weird. Okay. Yeah. So if you would drop that for me. Let's see. She says the woman up there was Heather. Don't play. They will probably take it out on you if they ever let. Yes, absolutely. So see how all this went down. Okay. So let me just tell you how this went down in layman's terms. The police found out in November of 2010 because Heather Keaton filed. She's a dumbass. She ain't too bright. She's not too bright anyway. Anybody that she's just too busy being evil. She wasn't too bright because in 2010, what she did was she filed for a protection order for abuse from John. Okay. I don't even know where Summer knows that, but that's what happened. She filed a protection order against John DeBleece, and she filed it, though, in Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. In that filing, she claimed DeBleece had killed his children. So she ratted on him. And she said she feared for her life. Now, she was trying to cover her ass because people was calling and wanting to know where the kids was. I assure you of that. So Louisville police contacted Mobile Police Department in Alabama to follow up on the allegations. And when Alabama investigators checked, no one had seen Natalie or Chase in months. And then there was no record of them being enrolled in school or daycare or anything there. Okay, so now I'm breaking it down for you. So they were arrested in 2010. So this stupid thingamadooge, she's the one that told it anyway. But what she was trying to do is get the blame off of her. I'm just saying. But see, we're going to get to that. Remember what I said. Please remember what I said. Now, if he was abusing her, I'm sorry. I don't agree with this, and I wouldn't say it any other time. But if she did that to my kids, should have been gone before my kids would have been gone. Whether that included hands-on or not, I'm just saying. Now, remember what I'm saying, because like I said, she was trying to be slick, and she was not slick. going to another county. I don't know if he threatened her or not, telling or whatever, but or another state. She went to another state, filed the protection order, da 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 da, all this stuff. And then she told on him. See, she thought she was going to be first. Okay? That's my opinion. Now, police located John in Florida. He come to Florida. So they took him into custody after they questioned him. And then he admitted to burying both children's bodies, though at first he blamed Heather for their deaths. So now they're playing the blame game and blaming each other. So Heather was arrested in Kentucky and she was extradited back to Alabama. Now, their statements led investigators to the two separate burial sites in Alabama and Mississippi where the children's remains were found. And that, again, that was December in 2010. Now, what came out of that testimony and the media coverage, if it's clear, almost no one raised the alarm at the time. But now here's where we go. The grandparents did love those kids. 1-800 is right about that. And there is one thing, and there's haunted parts to this case, is the reason, because I'm looking at, I did this all day yesterday, why family members on both sides didn't know, yada, yada, yada. Well, when they started calling and started wanting to know, they were told by their son and by Heather, which she usually controlled, you'll see, that these children went to live with Heather's family. Okay? That's what they thought. As far as the neighbors, they rarely ever said they saw the children outside. Where have we heard that one before? Let's see. I've heard it in Lori's case. I've heard it in Sebastian's case. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Anyway, neighbors said they rarely saw the children outside. These are little kids. Little kids are going to go outside and play. I'm sorry. They rarely saw them. There was no school records. Well, they weren't old enough to be in school. They could have been in pre-K, or she could have been in pre-K. Okay? They was not in daycare. Okay? They was not in daycare. There were no records of anything. There was nothing that nobody like that could prompt. What I'm getting at is a welfare check as far as school or daycare. So there was no formal missing persons report that was filed until Heather's protective order in November mentioned the murders. Prosecutors later said the children were hidden in plain sight, isolated, so that absence would not be noticed. Y'all, that breaks my heart. They had them babies right there in plain sight. Some neighbors say the children were in the home, but they didn't see them often, and they described the couple as private and reclusive. A few of the neighbors recalled this. This kind of pisses me off, though. A few of the neighbors recalled hearing arguments between John and Heather. At least one neighbor noted that Heather seemed controlling and was often the one answering the door all the time. She's the one that was speaking for the whole entire household. That should have been a red flag. But none of the neighbors interviewed reported seeing the obvious signs. Well, how much more obvious do you want? I'm just saying. That's not red flags to y'all? I'm just saying. But they also admitted they didn't have much contact with the kids, and I'm speaking of the neighbors. Well, no, duh. I'm sorry. Maybe they all were scared of Heather too. Just saying. Listen, I don't know, man. If you're knocking on the door and you know that Heather's opening the door and she's the one controlling the household all the time, why do you not know nothing about the kids? That's my question. Am I wrong? I'm sorry. Now, something ain't right with that, but okay. I'm just rolling with it. When we look back on the murders of Natalie and Chase, the question we all ask is why, and how could this happen without anyone noticing? The truth is, there were warning signs. There were red flags. But in my opinion, they were ignored or they were explained away. And we're going to walk through how they were explained away. Number one, she kept the children, or they did, he allowed it, isolated from the outside world. The children weren't in daycare. They weren't in school. They didn't have play date. They didn't have friends. So there was no teachers, no staff, no other adults present that could notice any injuries or absences or anything really going on. No regular doctor visits. So how could they mandate report if they didn't go to the doctor? And I'm sure others didn't know they weren't going to the doctor, because normally you take kids to the doctor for shots and regular checkups and stuff like that. Hell, mom was in the doctor all the time because I want to make sure if they sneezed, they were okay. Hey, Michelle Davis and everybody coming in. Yeah, exactly. Butterfly kisses. Boom, boom. Can't keep them quiet. Especially when they're that age, honey. Especially when they're that age. No way. So no regular doctor visits. And this couple kept the children inside, limiting their outside contact with the world. There was controlling behavior by Heather. Neighbors reported Heather was the gatekeeper, answering the door, doing the talking, limiting all the interaction, even with John and the kids. This control meant fewer opportunities for outsiders to see the children and the conditions of the house. I'm not saying that anything was wrong with the house. I don't know. I haven't seen the house. I'm just saying, but they couldn't see because Heather controlled everything. They had rare sightings. Neighbors rarely saw Natalie and Chase playing anything. And when they did see them, it was often just brief, just swift, and the children seemed quiet and withdrawn, is what they said. In my opinion, like Lori Page, she was seen, never hardly heard, and then she was seen walk to from the bus stop, from the corner into the house, and never seen to come out and play ever, day or night, with the other children. And she was 12. And just like Sebastian, he was in the house. Katie and them said he wanted friends, but really? But nobody ever really saw him outside. I'm just saying. Some people don't want their kids seen or heard, if you ask me. I know nobody didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Hey, Neuro V. Some people don't want them seen. They don't want them heard. They won't allow them friends. They don't want anyone knowing anything, in my opinion, about them at all. That's my opinion. Ginger says these parents want to keep their children out of sight, out of mind. Boom. So people forget about them. And then when they don't see them, they're not questioning. Or when they say, oh, they're going to live with so-and-so, you're not going to question that. Before I come on here, I probably wouldn't have questioned something like that. But now I see how evil these people are. You know, it's a setup. It's all set up. For these parents, it's just better for them that a child is not seen or heard, in my opinion. And then, hey, if the day comes and they think they can do whatever they want, if it suits them and their agenda, and if there was already arguments there, hey, and if they feel like they got to make a choice and choose, and they want to choose their spouse or their other partner or whatever over the child, that's what they do. They also think they will never be caught because nobody will question it or ever think twice, in my opinion. They always had excuses for absences for everyone who did question or notice. John's family, for example. Again, John's family, the grandparents questioned because they loved them kids. They were told that they were living with Heather's family. Now, that might be unusual, but I don't know why they were not with their real mom and John had custody. So it may not be so unusual if they thought, well, they're little kids. You know, I know when my kids was little, they would go spend the summer sometimes with my mom or, you know, something like that. At least one of them would. They wouldn't all. Trevor and Jagger's never been anywhere. My younger ones. I always watched them. I didn't never have a babysitter for them, ever. But it wouldn't be normal if somebody asked you and they went to spend the summer with somebody and these kids were little like that, or they, you know, said that maybe the grandparents thought, well, they're just gone for a little bit, not just living, but, you know, that's what his family was told. And they was told they were living with Heather's family, but nobody verified that. Excuse me, nobody verified that. Now, you call that, or I call that, blind trust without proof. See, because when you trust somebody, and I'm just speaking, okay, this is me. When you trust somebody and you love people unconditionally, you trust them unconditionally, you don't have to ask questions. You don't need to. See, because when you trust somebody, especially those you love, of course, you have blind trust. You just do. And you have no reason to question. You don't have reason to question. The world, you know, is not like YouTube. Everybody is not criminals. Everybody is not child abusers. That's not the thing that goes through a normal person's mind. But it needs to be, obviously, unfortunately. But you have no reason to question. However, unfortunately, as evil as everyone is now, we all got to question everything. If it comes to children. especially when they literally get out of sight, especially when you can't get them on the phone, especially when you haven't seen them. You know, don't allow them to be out of mind just because they're out of sight. Make it your business to find out. Somebody tells you that, oh, there was so and so. All right, check it. Pull up. It's not a problem. Hey, make it your business. Verify. That child really is there, and the child or children is really okay. And if they are, fine. It's a false alarm. No harm, no foul. And, you know, if somebody finds out, it may piss somebody off, but oh well, they'll get over it. You know, just thank God that the child or children is okay. There was also missed opportunities, I think. Missed opportunities to speak up, because I say that because the neighbor said there was arguments. Arguments was overheard by neighbors, but there was no welfare check done. Nobody was called. Everybody wanted to mind their own business. Why? Now, I'm not saying call the cops every time you hear somebody arguing. Okay? You don't need to be that nosy. However, if they knew they had kids and the arguments was going on, even if they didn't see the kids, then they should have just picked up the phone and called a report in and let the law come out there and find out if everything and everybody was okay. The people there, they suspected tension, but they didn't feel it was their place to get involved. Well, it is your place. Stop turning a blind eye to the innocent children. Nobody cares about the adults. We care about the adults, but I guess I shouldn't have said it like that. But the kids cannot help themselves. They absolutely cannot help themselves. Okay? And kids this little that's on my screen, they don't know how to call this 1-800 number. They don't know how to text. I doubt their parents even told them how to dial 911. They didn't go to school. They didn't go to daycare. So was they even allowed to watch TV? Did they even know how to dial 911? I don't know. Did they even have a phone handy? You may be the only person who, if you hear this arguing and you know there's kids involved, that could save children like this. If there's little kids, don't turn your head and close your ears and then say it's okay, because it's not okay, not at the expense of a child. It needs to stop. Natalie and Chase weren't just murdered, they were erased. They suffered. They were made to suffer with poison in their food, in their drinks. They probably never even got a decent meal for a long time. Yeah, be nosy. And from everything I view, I say do it before anything bad happens. If it's a pattern, that's why so many of these kids like patterns: isolation, control, excuses, silence. Well, the neighbors already knew there was a pattern, and I hate to keep going on about the neighbors, but they're the ones who said that. So then if there was arguments on top of it, somebody should have been called. They should have made it their business. Just my opinion. Their behaviors that kept them hidden. If something in your gut tells you something isn't right, also speak up. You could be the reason a child lives to see their next birthday or the next hours. You could be the reason it lives at all. You know, in this case, there's no public record showing. Now, listen to this, guys. There's no public record showing that Alabama's Department of Human Services had ever been called to investigate. So we can't blame it on them this time. Okay? Nobody bothered to call them. Had they been to called to investigate John or Heather or both before this, it might have changed things. I don't know. In court, prosecutors noted that there was no prior welfare cases filed. None existed for either Natalie or Chase. And this was partly because the children were kept out of school, out of daycare, and out of most public settings, which is the main sources when people, mandatory reporters. And because nobody ever saw them. Again, out of sight, out of mind. Ginger's right. And also because anyone, and I'm speaking to the neighbors, I'm sorry, or anyone who heard the fussing and fighting that never made that call, in my opinion. But that's just in my opinion as far as criminal. John, he had no major past criminal records before the murders. He did have a few minor history things. Nothing, they said, that flagged him as a violent offender or triggered any Department of Human Services involvement. Now we got Heather. Here's where I kept telling y'all to pay attention earlier. Hey, love wins. I'm so glad you caught alive too. I am so sorry you've been in the hospital, honey. Oh, I hope you heal. I hope you feel better soon. Much love to you. Many prayers. Many prayers. Yeah, isolation is the red flag. Isolation is the red flag. But when I kept telling y'all about Heather, excuse me, let me get a drink of this. Okay, so when I kept telling y'all about Heather, she had a little history of controlling behavior, abusive treatment towards the children, right there in the family. And according to the family testimony, but no documented criminal record of child abuse before the case. And they did have a protective order. Now listen to this. But, and here's your sign. Here's your sign, honey. But she did have a protective order filed against her by another man in the past. And the other man put on the protection order how controlling and threatening behavior she had. But it was unrelated to this case, unrelated to John, unrelated to these children. But that witch already had a protective order on her before by another man. So see, seems to me, in my opinion, she was the violent person. But remember, there were no prior formal complaints there. There was no active watch list or interventions in place, meaning law enforcement, DHS, none of that learned about Natalie and Chase or them until they were already dead. John used to be, a long time ago, I guess, a circus worker. And he did odd jobs before and during the early years, when with the children. Now, at the time of the murders in 2010, he was unemployed. He was working just sporadic jobs here and there, often relying on Heather's income to help, and Heather, she did not hold steady jobs, not outside the house. She was described as a stay-at-home mom, and she was described as a caretaker. So I'm sure she was on welfare. I'm sure they was getting welfare. But she controlled all the money, all the access, the children, including all the family visits, who could visit, who didn't, who could not visit, who could come in. And so they both relied strictly on their family to help and public assistance. In my opinion, she was not only a control freak, but she was evil, abusive, and all the things, in my opinion. In my opinion, she was jealous, she was lazy, she was resentful, and she wanted both of these kids gone, period. Period, in my opinion. But that wasn't good enough for her. She had to make them suffer. Prosecutors say Heather began mixing the antifreeze in the children's food and in their drinks for weeks before their death. And it caused a slow decline. It caused symptoms, headaches, weakness, vomiting. It caused them to be lethargic. And then it slowly caused their organs to fail. And you think about all that happening to you. If something like that, if your organs were failing, if you were sick, you would go to the hospital. You would have pain medicine. You would, XYZ. No, these kids suffered deadly. And then they died. Testimony said she wanted to see how long it would take to kill them with poison. So she was a sick POS. It wasn't a one-time act. It was a drawn-out process over several weeks for each of these beautiful children, each of them, before they died. Natalie, age 4, they said likely endured at least 2 weeks to 3 weeks of suffering of this poison before she was killed March 2010. Chase, they said, age 3. He suffered a similar pattern leading up to his death in June. And then in 2010, in February, Heather begins adding, it just tells again her Natalie stuff. That's when it all started. When she did that, Natalie becomes lethargic, vomits a lot, and she gets weaker by the day. Then she was no longer able to play outside, not at all. She kept her indoors, out of sight, out of mind, no medical care. They say the poison worsens. It caused kidney damage, organ failure started setting in. But they say Natalie, that wasn't good enough for this POS. She strangled her, or I don't know if she did, but Natalie was strangled and suffocated after that. And Natalie was too weak to fight back. Natalie was dead. John and Heather take her body, drive her to the wood near Central Hill, Alabama, and they bury her in a shallow grave. Chase, she does the same thing with him. The poisoning process, he becomes weak, stops playing, he sleeps a lot. Symptoms escalate in June, and then he has a lack of coordination. Heather isolates him, same thing she did with Natalie. And then June 20th, he's finished off by strangulation and suffocation after the poison has already hit him and he's frail and he can't fight back. His body was driven over the state line to Mississippi and thrown out. They weren't sudden acts of violence. They weren't prolonged acts of cruelty. This poison wasn't just meant to kill. It was meant to break them down slowly, day by day by day, minute by minute. They could not fight back. These little children could not fight back. And the dad, John allowed it. Scared of her? I don't think so. He's full of crap, in my opinion. And he's just as bad, if not worse. And does he deserve everything she got? Absolutely. Absolutely, in my opinion. Both children's remains were recovered by the law enforcement, the search teams. John himself led investigators to the burial sites in December of 2010. Natalie was found December 11th, again in this wooded place in Central Hill, Alabama. And then John, after the search, Chase, he was found December 15th in a wooded area in Mississippi. And on that one, I believe he just gave directions to the spot. He didn't go to that one. They were discovered by Jackson County Sheriff's Office deputies with the help from Alabama investigators. And there's little specific detail on, what's going on now day to day. They're just on death row, honey. And hopefully that's where they'll be until the day they die. Naturally or otherwise. Naturally at somebody's hands or at execution. I don't know. What they did to these kids was horrible. These details are based on standard practices in Alabama prison systems, not case-by-case reporting. Specific updates for DeBleece and Keaton. There's no public available information providing personal updates on their behaviors now. No reports on if they got, any mental health counseling, if they are doing good, bad, have bad reports or whatever, we don't know. Nothing has been said, published, or talked about. I guess if something happens, it'll be in the news. But no execution date has been set. Alabama keeps a death row inmate under strict scrutiny, and public cases access to their personal conditions is extremely limited unless their legal teams release updates. I don't see that happening. And that's when we're going to be aware of it, not their day-to-day life. I just hope they're suffering. Both of them, in my opinion. Natalie and Chase were just 4 and 3, and they never got to grow up. They never got to see the world. They never had the chance to escape the hands of people who haunt them. Instead, their lives was short. They lived in pain. They lived in fear. Couldn't eat a decent meal, drink a decent drink Two people who should have, you know, um, um, protected them the most did not. Let's watch one of these videos. Okay, we're going to watch. Y'all hear my dog snoring. Hold on.
Testimony continues today in the capital murder trial of John DeBlaze.
He is accused of killing his young children, Chase and Natalie DeBlaze. Local 15's Madupe Idowu has been following this trial for us.
Madupe, today you spoke with the children's biological mother.
That's right, Kim. I spoke with her earlier today, and I have to say she was so emotional, quite emotional as we chatted after she finished testifying, and also very emotional on the stand, as you can imagine. She tells me she blames herself for the loss of her two children, Natalie and Chase.
They were happy. They were my heart.
Fighting back tears here and on the stand today, Corinne DeBlaze testified in the capital murder trial of John DeBlaze. She is DeBlaze's ex-wife and the biological mother to 4-year-old Natalie and 3-year-old Chase.
But where was she?
Oh, I can't have no more.
John DeBlaze and his common-law wife, Heather Lavelle Keaton, are accused of torturing and murdering the two children in 2010. In court, the grieving mother blames herself. She said, quote, "I know there's things I could have done that I could have done then. I blame myself. He was their father. He was supposed to protect them. That's what a father is supposed to do." During the marriage, Corinne testified that DeBlaze was a good father who adored his children. She said Natalie was his little princess and that Chase was his little shadow.
Natalie, for her first Halloween, she had a little pumpkin outfit on. She was so cute. She slept through most of it, but everybody loved it. And Chase, the next year, he wore the same outfit. And he was awake. He was just looking around.
Love you, Millie.
They were happy.
Corinne says after they divorced, she had visitation every other weekend. She claimed she let DeBlaze take the children because he had a car, a job, and a safe place to live, all things she wanted to provide but couldn't.
From my heart, I know it may not seem the way they make it look, but I love them so much. I love them so much.
Now, DeBlaze tells us that she tried to get custody of her children. She says she sought out a lawyer who advised her to get a job, get a car, get a safe place to live. She also tells us that the last time she saw her two children was on November 17th of 2009. She didn't hear anything from John DeBlaze or reach out until a little bit over a year later, when detectives came to her door telling her that her children were missing. And before she left, she told me to hold your loved ones close. For now, reporting live at Government Plaza, I'm Madupe Ido, Local 15.
Okay. See that right there? See that right there? Like I said, where was she? Look, and she had visitation every other weekend. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. That's a lie. Because, yes, thank you. Because she would have known they were gone. She sure didn't get the visitation every other weekend when this was going on from February, March, April, May, June, July, August. I'm sorry. No, she didn't. She just said, there's things I could have did different. Yeah, there's things she could have did different. I don't know who, if she or the courts gave John the kids, but it takes a lot for the dad to get the kids. I'm sorry, y'all can agree or disagree. It don't matter to me. This lady's a piece of shit. This lady should have known her kids was gone. Don't cry now. I'm sorry. Don't cry now. And then you're supposed to get them every other weekend. Okay. And I know John's parents was told they were living with Heather's family. This is the biological mom. If you're supposed to have them every other weekend or you go every other weekend, well, why didn't you try to go find them at somewhere else and pick them up? I'm sorry. What? I can't hear. Can't hear. Don't cry now. Hold on just a second. I got to put this other one up. It's News 15. Oh, that is News 15. Okay, sorry.
Capital murder trial of John DeBlaze.
It's day 4 of testimony. DeBlaze is accused of poisoning his 2 young children, Natalie and Chase DeBlaze.
Local 15's Madupe Idowu has been following this trial since the very beginning. Madupe, what's the very latest?
Well, Kim, today we learned that John DeBlaze wrote letters about how and why he killed his children while in jail. At least that's what Brandon Newborn testified today. He is one of his cellmates that was in jail with John DeBlaze. Newborn testifies that DeBlaze allowed Heather Keaton to torture, beat, and poison his children. In these letters, DeBlaze confesses to choking his 2 children to death out of mercy and asks the kids, why couldn't you just listen to your stepmother? Also in these letters, DeBlaze says he wanted to put the kids out of their misery because Heather was torturing and beating them and wanted to break their spirits because they were disobedient children. In these letters, DeBlaze says that he had no choice but to kill the children because Heather gave him an ultimatum. It was her or the children, and he claims he was madly in love. And in each of these letters, he states in one way or another that I, John DeBlaze, am writing this under my own will. He writes allegedly that he wants to testify against Heather Keaton to, quote, end this nightmare. Now, the defense says the only reason why Brandon Newborn, who is a man who is convicted of murder and is currently serving 2 life sentences, they believe the only reason he's come forward with these letters to the DA is to work out a deal for him to get out of jail early. The defense says that Brandon Newborn and Kennard Henson, a former DA assistant who was in jail for attempted murder, they believe these 2 manipulated DeBlaze into writing these letters. The defense suggests that the 2 coerced DeBlaze to write those letters for their own personal gain and offered protection to DeBlaze while in jail. Newborn, when questioned, said, I don't have anything to lose or gain. I'm here because who lets somebody torture and kill their kids? But now reporting live at Government Plaza, I'm Madupe Idowu, Local 15 News.
Yeah. Who? He did what? Yeah. I can't wrap my mind around it. I just can't. I would have told her, don't let the door hit you. Exactly. And she would have got a little, let me find out somebody was mistreating my child. But wait a minute. What I want to say is, who else does that sound like? How did that love work out for you? I did it because I loved her. I loved her. I told my kids, they better do this. They better do that. I love. Yeah. You need to love your kids is what you need to love. You need to stand up for your kids is what you need to do. I don't care who you are. I'm sorry. That's what you need to do. I think it's this one next.
Who was sentenced to death for the torturing and killing of her 2 stepchildren, was back in court this morning for her resentencing after a court overturned her sentence last year. Well, the judge resentenced the woman, Heather Keaton, to death by lethal injection. Megan Mackey was there as the ruling was made and has reaction from family.
Heather Keaton's defense team was hoping the death penalty would be tossed off the table, but a judge decided for a second time she deserves capital punishment for what she did to those two little children.
It was justified.
Richard DeBlaze, the grandfather of 3-year-old Chase and 4-year-old Natalie DeBlaze, sat in the courtroom as Heather Keaton was ushered in 10 years after she and her husband poisoned her stepchildren with antifreeze and dumped their bodies in the woods. It's been 10 years, since this all happened. I mean, what is this day like for you?
Every time I go to the store or I see a small child, I think about it. I would never understand the justification to try to harm them.
Keaton was convicted and sentenced to death for their murders back in 2015, but her sentence was recently overturned because she didn't get a formal chance to speak when she was sentenced. During her resentencing, she told the judge she isn't a danger and has been devoting her time to faith, but expressed no remorse for the killings. The judge reimposed her death sentence. Keaton's family didn't want to speak with us, but her attorney says this isn't over.
We're going to keep fighting on behalf of Ms. Lavelle Keaton. It's not over today.
As for Keaton's husband, who was also convicted in this case, he remains behind bars on death row. Reporting in Government Plaza, I'm Megan Mackey for WKRG News 5.
As the verdict was read, DeBlaze's head hung low, and he shook his head back and forth. One by one, each juror stated yes to finding John DeBlaze guilty of all 3 counts of capital murder in the death of his daughter, 4-year-old Natalie, and son, 3-year-old Chase. 2 counts are for the murder of a child under the age of 14, and the 3rd count is for the murder of 2 or more people. His parents, Ann and Richard DeBlaze, rushed out of the courtroom. DeBlaze's mother didn't want to go on camera, but tells me she feels she lost her best friend. He is their only child. The state argued the children were beaten, starved, duct taped, and gagged by, quote, monsters, Heather Keaton and John DeBlaze. In jail letters, DeBlaze confesses to choking his 2 children to death to, quote, put them out of their misery. Natalie's body was dumped in the woods in Citronelle. Chase's body found in thick woods of Van Cleve, Mississippi. It was an emotional roller coaster as jurors shed tears listening to the gruesome, horrific details of the 2 children's death. The defense quickly placed the blame on Heather Keaton, DeBlaze's common-law wife, calling her a, quote, violent, controlling psychopath that killed the children because she was jealous of their relationship with their father. The defense argued DeBlaze allowed Keaton to abuse his children because he was madly in love and easily manipulated. In the end, the jury held John DeBlaze accountable for the death of his, quote, Princess Natalie and little Shadow Chase.
Good morning.
Y'all, there's just no words. I mean, what can you say? It's all, BS. I did it because I was madly in love. I did it. I put them out of their misery. Is that supposed to make it better? They're not rabid dogs. Look at the little girl and look at the little boy. What is wrong with these people? They're not, I don't think they're human. I don't understand it. There's so, believe it or not, there is so much news reports and stories. And I'm sure the trial, I didn't even go to Law and Crime, but this was a big case. And I wanted to bring it to you. It happens. You can't wrap your mind around and understand that a parent would allow this from a step parent, but they do. Or hell, they wasn't even married. That was just his common law wife, okay? Pay attention. If you see a child disappear from view, if you hear cries behind closed doors, if something feels wrong. Don't wait. Don't second guess yourself. Just pick up the phone, make up the call, and speak up. You might be the only one that does. You might be the only one that does. Justice may come, and it may come in a short time. It may come in a long time. But justice is coming. And the truth always comes out, in my opinion. Justice may have locked them away, but, you know, people's going to continue to talk about this, and they're going to keep their ugly names, faces, hearts out there forever, what they did to these kids. They really will. I know these are little angels now. No more suffering, no more pain. Look, thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening. I know this was not easy. Just thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you in the streets. In the streets, the YouTube streets, that is. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Go eat you some lunch, and I'll talk to y'all in a bit. Thank you so much. Bye.